Hello and welcome to Medical Dialogues, your daily dose of health and medical news. I am Dr. Nandita Mohan. Non-vitamin K antagonist oral anticoagulants helpful in stroke. The current guidelines do recommend against the use of intravenous alteplase in patients with acute ischemic stroke who are taking non-vitamin K antagonist oral anticoagulants. However, a recent study evaluated the safety and functional outcomes of intravenous alteplase among patients who were taking non-vitamin K antagonist oral anticoagulants prior to the development of stroke and compared the outcomes with patients who were not taking long-term anticoagulants. The results that have been published in the JAMA network concluded that among patients with acute ischemic stroke who have been treated with intravenous alteplase, the use of non-vitamin K antagonist oral anticoagulants within the preceding 7 days was not associated with a significantly increased risk of developing intracranial hemorrhage. FDA approves Empagliflozin use for heart failure despite contrary results of trials. Heart failure is a long-term condition in which your heart can't pump enough blood to meet the body's needs. It's a serious condition and needs immediate attention. Several previous trials, like the Emperor Preserved trial, widely anticipated the use of Empagliflozin based on the landmark results of the trial, and it saw a significant 21% relative reduction of the occurrence of heart failure. Similarly, another trial, that is the Paragon HF trial, evaluated sacubitril/valsartan drug combination, and it enrolled patients with heart failure and left ventricular ejection fraction. The trial, however, was a negative one in that it saw no significant advantage to the drug for its primary clinical outcomes. Now, the US Food and Drug Administration has approved an expanded heart failure indication for the SGLT2 inhibitor Empagliflozin that now includes heart failure with mid-range or preserved left ventricular ejection fraction despite several results not favoring the drug. The FDA used a cautionary language in using these drugs for treatment of heart failure. Myocardial fibrosis and its impact, cardiovascular structure and function. Myocardial fibrosis, measured using cardiovascular magnetic resonance extracellular volume, is associated with adverse outcomes in heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, but the mechanisms by which this condition, that is the myocardial fibrosis, exerts this deleterious effects are still quite unclear. A study in the Research Square aimed to determine whether myocardial fibrosis causes changes in cardiovascular structure and function and circulating biomarkers and the functional status as well. According to the study, the regression of myocardial fibrosis was associated with improvements in the functional status. The small improvement in the left ventricular ejection fraction, however, was not mediated by the myocardial fibrosis regression. Can individuals' walking pace impact their heart failure risk? In a study in the Journal of the American Geriatrics Society of Postmenopausal Women, those who reported a faster walking pace had a lower risk of developing heart failure. Isn't that an achievement? The study confirms other studies demonstrating the importance of walking speed on mortality and other cardiovascular outcomes. Given that limited time for exercise is frequently given as a barrier to regular physical activity, walking faster but for less time might provide similar health benefits as the recommended 150 minutes per week of moderate physical activity. Atrial fibrillation in cancer patients, a serious risk factor to develop stroke. The prevalence of cancer in stroke patients is higher than that of general population. The role atrial fibrillation plays in acute ischemic stroke or transient ischemic attacks in the setting of cancer is, however, very unclear. According to a study that is published in the BMC Cardio-Oncology Journal, it reported that trial fibrillation, previous ischemic stroke, active cancer treatment, dyslipidemia and renal disease are all independent risk factors for acute ischemic stroke or transient ischemic attacks, and a higher score significantly increases the risk in cancer patients regardless of atrial fibrillation. That's all for today. Stay safe.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.